Hello everyone, I'm Nick from GMAT Hunter, and today we are going to practice doing the GMAT critical reasoning question together. You ready? If you are, then let's start reading this question and we will tackle it and try to find the answer together. So before we get to that, I would like to say that for the GMAT critical reasoning or the verbal in general, you would have approximately 1 minute and 45 seconds. 1 minute and 45 seconds approximately to finish one question. So this one, since it's a pretty long question, we can expect that the time that we will take should be around this one or a little bit less. Okay? For the critical reasoning. But if you have done the sentence correction, you should know that that part is the part that you can do faster, finish faster than 1 minute and 45 seconds. Maybe 1.5 minutes, something like that. Okay? So this one. As far back as the 1950s, okay, back in 1950s, research has shown that adults who participate in over 30 minutes of aerobic exercise at least 3 times a week have a significantly lower prevalence of respiratory illness than those who do not. What does it mean? It means that there are some statistics that show that the people who exercise show the symptom of illness less than the people who do not exercise. And there are stats, right? There are statistics that shows that. Now, in recent years, studies have consistently confirmed this same statistic. Okay, there are many studies that confirm the same statistic. So this one should be true, right? Should be true. And then, what does the author of this statement conclude? It says that it can be concluded therefore that regular aerobic exercise can be helpful in preventing respiratory illness. Okay, now when we see that, of course this one has a conclusion, right? So it wouldn't be the question that asks you to conclude, that asks you to infer, like that, because those questions wouldn't have the conclusion in this part is called the stimulus. Right? It wouldn't have like the conclusion in here. And here is pretty easy to find because there are some keywords like conclude, like therefore. So this part here, starting from it until the illness, should be the conclusion of this one here. What does it say? It says that there are statistics that show that the people who exercise have less symptoms, not less symptoms, like show less of the respiratory illness, okay, than the people who does not. And there are some statistics that confirm that, and then we conclude that aerobic exercise, like running or anything like that, swimming, can be helpful in preventing the illness. Okay? Now, when we know that it's the question that have the conclusion is most likely, okay, not always, but most likely it will be a question that asks you to find a weakness, to find a strength, to strengthen the question, to find assumptions. Because these 3 types of questions are the questions that are out in the GMAT exam the most. Let's see what this question is about. It's okay, we read this question stem, right? This one is called the question stem. And this one is the weakened question. Right? Which one, if true, would most weaken the argument above, if true. So that means that we will have to take each choice as true. Which one, if true, will destroy this argument that the regular aerobic exercise will be helpful to preventing the illness in the respiratory. Let's look at each choice together. Choice A. Right? Some respiratory illness are hereditary, and therefore minimally affected by lifestyle choices. This one is tempting, a little bit tempting, but not really. Let's see why. First thing, it says that some illness, right? Some illness in the thing that we talk about, the respiratory illness, are hereditary and minimally affected by lifestyle choices. So it says some. So it could mean that maybe the majority, right? Or maybe the larger part are not the hereditary and could be affected by lifestyle choices like the aerobic exercise. Second, right? If you look at this thing here, it says that minimally affected. That doesn't mean that it's not affected at all, right? So maybe the illness will be affected at least enough to show that the people who do the exercise will not show the symptom as much as the people who do not do the exercise. Can you follow? It says minimal effect. That means that it can affect somewhat. And here it says that some, right? Some people, it's just like some people, maybe 1 or 2, 3 or 4, but maybe the larger part or maybe like the majority part still are not a hereditary illness, are not a respiratory, that are not from the hereditary. And therefore, this one cannot destroy our argument. This one cannot destroy our argument because it's too weak, right? It says some, larger part maybe not. It says minimally affected, maybe it's still affected. So this one, we rule out this choice. Let's look at choice B together. The amount of air pollution. Air pollution, a common cause of respiratory illness, has increased dramatically since the 1950s. Okay, another tempting answer. But when we analyze this one here, it says that the air pollution increased a lot since 1950s. But still, it doesn't mean that the group of people who exercise and the group of people who does not exercise show the symptom differently, right? Let's think of it this way. Even though the air pollution has increased a lot since the 1950s, the people who are exercise, right, who are exercising regularly, and people who don't do the exercise still are affected by this change in the air pollution level. Then, our fact that the people who do exercise have less prevalence of the illness than the people who do not can still means that the exercise, the aerobic exercise, can help reduce the illness prevalence, right? On the other hand, if this one says that the people who do not exercise are exposed more to the air pollution. Can you follow? The people who do not do the exercise, are exposed more to the air pollution than the people who do not. Then we can think this one as a weakness if that's the case, because it's not the act of doing the exercise that reduce the chance of having the respiratory illness, but rather is the exposure to the air pollution that cause the difference in the result in our facts, in our stimulus. But this answer choice says otherwise. It says that both groups are affected by the air pollution, right? So the information that we have, the finding that the people who do lots of exercise still show less symptoms of this illness than the people who do not still remains, and our argument still exists, right? So we can still conclude that the aerobic exercise do have some effect to the prevalence of this illness. Now look at the choice C. People with respiratory illness are generally told by doctors that they must limit or cease their aerobic exercise routines. Doctors says to the sick people, right? That they should stop the exercise. This one, if you think about it, that the finding that we have, that the people who do lots of exercise, okay, I do this as a weightlifting person, okay, are sick less. So exercise should mean sick less. But this one says otherwise. It says that the people who are sick are told by the doctors they should stop the exercise. The people who are sick are told by the doctor that they should stop the exercise. That means that the people who are not sick can still do the exercise, but the people who are sick have to stop doing the exercise. And that's why it explains our finding. And that's why if this is the case, if this one is true, then we cannot conclude that the exercise leads to sick less, right? Because when they are sick, they are asked or they are ordered by the doctors that they should stop doing the exercise. But when they are not sick, they can still keep on exercising. Then this one is our potential candidate for the answer. But we still need to read the rest, right? Question D. Recent studies have debunked the conventional wisdom that aerobic exercise is an effective preventer of heart disease. So some people might think that this one could be the answer, because if there is some studies that debunk one kind of result, right? One kind of result, it could mean that there would be another studies that show the result that this finding that we have is not accountable as well. But that's not the case. Because even though this one is true, it cannot say that our finding is false. It's two different cases. And especially this one is not talking about the respiratory illness at all. It's talking about a heart disease. So this one is totally out of scope. Right? So this one is wrong for sure. Okay, out of scope. It's different cases, and it's not talking about the respiratory disease at all. It's talking about the heart disease. Question D, choice E. The length of the average workday and commute have increased markedly, increased a lot since the 1950s, leaving the average person with less time for aerobic exercise. Average person have less time than the aerobic exercise. Let's look at our questions, not the questions, then the stimulus again. It says that research has shown that adults who participate in over 30 minutes of aerobic exercise at least 3 times a week have a significant lower of this kind of sickness. It doesn't talk whether they have enough time or not. It just shows that from the research, the people who do the exercise show less of the sickness. Alright? So that means this one is also out of scope. Because we say that the research shows that, the research that we have shows that the people who do the exercise at least 3 times a week show less symptom of the respiratory sickness. But it doesn't talk whether those people have enough time or not. Right? So even if they have less time to do this thing, they could still do the exercise. Or maybe even if they have less time on average, it doesn't argue the fact that doing the exercise will help prevent the disease. Can you follow? So this one is also wrong. It's out of scope. That leaves the correct answer only the C. Right? So if the doctors says that the people who do the exercise, the people who are sick should stop doing the exercise, then it's most likely they will find the people who still do the exercise still exercise are not the people who are sick, because the people who are sick already been told by the doctors that they should stop the exercise. Okay, and that's our example of the critical reasoning question. What we get here is that the conclusion is so important, it's super important. And when you have to tackle the question like the weaken, the strengthen, the assumption, it's important that you find the right conclusion in that question. Okay, and it'll help your life much easier. And when you do this kind of question, I would like to recommend that you should read the stimulus first before the question stem, because otherwise you will have to read the question stem, read the stimulus, and then back to read the question stem again. It wastes of your time. Okay, so that's it for this video, and I'm Nick from GMAT Hunter. Let's see you again soon. Bye bye.